Welcome back to Alt.tistic, the most retarded political show on the interwebs. My name is Garrett. I am your host. We got our co-host Davey over there and our producer slash sound guy slash basically literally anything besides a host, Zach. We hope you had a great Thanksgiving. We took last week off because Zach was sick and Davey was attending to some emergencies. It was a weird situation. But we're back this week. We hope Thanksgiving was good. I hope Thanksgiving was good for you guys. I am still feeling the effects of being stuffed out of my gourd, so I'm very, very sleepy still. But that's fine. We'll push through it. We'll power through it, and bring you guys along on the most crazy timeline that we could possibly be living in. So what we're going to talk about probably for most of the episode is all the craziness around Ye right now, as it feels like it's a weekly occurrence at this point, that something new happens within the storyline of Ye that just makes it more and more interesting to talk about. And we had a shooting in Colorado, right, at a gay nightclub. So I guess we can. Wait, don't laugh. We'll start with that. So there was a Just hold on a second. So this past week we had a shooting. I think it was in Colorado Springs. There was a deranged person who took a gun into a nightclub and shot a bunch of people. They got arrested, got painted as some right-wing extremist, I think there was a news report that maybe Rachel Maddow or someone who was like, it's always a straight white man who does this kind of stuff. And then we had a statement be put out by the person through their lawyer. I think it was video 2.
So attorneys for the accused shooter, Anderson Lee Aldrich, say in new court filings tonight that the suspect now identifies as non-binary. In a footnote to a motion asserting legal privileges, the public defenders say, quote, Anderson Aldrich is non-binary. They use they/them pronouns, and for the purposes of all formal filings will be addressed as Mix Aldrich. So in other words, not Mr. or Ms. Joining me now, CNN political commentator Errol Lewis, also back with me, Al Franken and Joe Walsh. I don't know what to say about that. I mean, that's not anything that we had heard from his background. You know, people have been looking into his background.
We don't need
I don't know if anybody here.
We don't need to care about the rest of that. So yeah, our shooter is a they/them who wants to be identified as mixed. I don't know when that started or whenever that became a thing, but yeah. So it turns out it's a mentally unstable individual who goes by they/them pronouns. Who could have foreseen this? I feel like at this point, the media just really wants it to be a straight cis white right-wing guy at this point, and they will take anything they can get, and then it'll blow up in their face. Oh, someone attacked a bunch of gay people. Well, it's got to be a straight cis white red right-wing guy. Oh, it was a they/them. Oh, okay. Well, this black guy was attacked by a bunch of white redneck. Oh no, he was shot in a black on black gang violent gang interaction.
Those don't make it on the news though.
Yeah, no.
Black on black crime don't make it to the news.
No, they'll just blame the white people on it and then won't retract anything. It feels like a lot of these situations, your greatest enemy are your own people.
So do we have the video of the dad?
Oh no, I didn't see the video. I'd heard about it though.
Well, I gotta.
Yeah, you gotta find that. If I remember right, it's the video of the dad of the shooter, right? And he was like, "Well, at least he's not gay." But it's a silly thing because it feels like they at the very least the people who are the loudest voices are trying to just ignore the actual issue. Blame it on white folks. Blame it on straight or cis, I don't know, normal people.
Is that what cis means? Is straight?
It means you comply to the gender you were assigned at birth. So like if you're
not
in their
mentally
terms.
insane.
Yeah, pretty much.
Basically, you're normal. That's what I'm gonna go with. Yeah, you're normal, and mentally sound. But they automatically want to make that jump to blame that group, and then they wonder why we have a bunch of angry white boys running around, who are sick and tired of this crap. But it's interesting that they're willing to overlook the fact that a lot of mentally unstable individuals happen to be not cis or whatever you want to call it, right? They want to overlook that instance or the instances of Chicago gangland shootings and that kind of stuff. And if it's ever brought up, it's always blamed on the white folks.
Yep.
Never want them to take accountability for their actions or seek help. It's stupid and it's silly, and I understand that they want to demonize white folks, but I don't understand how a bunch of people just go along with it and go, oh yeah, well, that makes sense.
They think they're doing something good, or they're being a good person when, I mean, if a kid walked into a school with a submachine gun and he's like, I'm going to kill all my classmates, and the teacher was like, you know what? You follow your dreams. You're an insane person.
Yeah.
You are the problem. You could have prevented this person from killing mass amounts of people. But now, I mean, the only person that's really being hurt by this nonsense is themselves, but it's people, it's kids.
Mm.
It's
Well, it's so weird to me that it seems like that the non-cis stuff is the exception when it comes to the mental health talk and mental illness. It's not a mental illness, just let them live their truth. And I'm like, if we had that same idea maybe around depressed people, like they mental illness is you thinking that there's a reality that is not true.
Right.
That you see a reality that is not actually real. And so when you go in as a dude and say, I'm a woman or I am a they, them, which makes no sense, that like grammatically makes no sense, much less like in reality. But they come in and it's like, oh, well, live your truth. You would be probably arrested as a therapist if a depressed kid walked in and said, hey, I don't think my life matters. I think I should take it. And you go, hey, live your truth, buddy. Like, no, obviously you're going to say, no, your life matters. There are people who care about you. So why can we not acknowledge reality when it comes to the T and, well, all the letters of the sandwich people?
Yeah.
Why can we not acknowledge that and say, hey, bud, you're not a girl. You're a boy. Just look at yourself. I know you maybe feel a little more feminine. Okay, fine. Wear pink, whatever. But you're still a dude.
Yeah.
You'll grow out of this.
You don't have to. I mean, mentally, if you think that you should have been like, okay, let's say like me for instance. Sometimes I make the joke with my friends, I was born the wrong skin color. Do I actually feel like I was born the wrong skin color?
go like
No,
that, yeah.
because it doesn't matter. It's a joke. I think it's funny to be like, oh, if I was black, I'd have a cut top because I would. I'd have an afro. I'd have the coolest hairstyle ever. I wouldn't be a bald loser like I am right now. And it's one thing to think, or if you're a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old and you get into your mom's closet and you find the high heels you come out wearing, you don't think you're a girl. You don't want to be a girl. You don't want to be gay. You don't want to be all this other stuff. You're just being a kid. And that is the point that we're at, is these people were never raised. They were never taught right and wrong. It was just, stick them in front of an iPad. Let the PS4 raise them. Let the TV raise them. And now we're suffering the consequences of these kids that just, now they're 25, 26, and they go to the workplace. It's like, well, I identify as they, them. Well, I identify with my foot in your ass if you don't shut up. So it's just annoying. It's irritating. Yeah. It's not normal.
Yeah.
It is not normal to think that if you have a penis that you're a girl, or vice versa. Like, you need help. You need to seek therapy. You seek God's face first.
Yeah.
And
find God and talk to people who actually care about you.
Yeah, because the people who enable you to continue to act that way, they don't care about you. They're just going along to get along, and they'll do that with anybody and everybody.
Yeah.
When my friends do something stupid, I say, hey, you idiot, you're stupid. Quit being stupid,
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, oh, you know what? Like, you're right. And same thing, I expect when I do something dumb, hey, going 45 miles an hour into a 90-degree angle turn when the road is wet is not a good idea, Davey. You will end up in a barn. And lo and behold, I did. It was a bad idea. And they tell me all the time, you're an idiot. Davey, you can't go the wrong way down a one-way. Guess what? Get pulled over. it's it's so simple, but
Yeah.
yet we, and I say we, the 500,000 people that watch CNN think that if you don't call somebody by what they want to be called by, you're a bad person. You're a bad person if you pretend that transgenderism or whatever the adjective of that word would be is possible. It's not possible. You just because I say, hey, this is my imaginary friend, Pat, doesn't make Pat real.
Yeah.
It just means that, hey, there's no such thing as imaginary friends. Sorry, buddy.
Yeah.
That's a good friend. That's a good friend who will pull you out of a bad spot.
We as a generalized generation, us as maybe not so much the Zoomers right now, but we'll still stick with it. The Zoomers, the Millennials, and then the Gen Xers. A growing population of these people are afraid of accountability. We're gonna find yes men, yes women, yes Zers who will affirm everything we say. And if anyone puts up any resistance, oh, you're a bad friend, I don't want anything to do with you. That is not healthy for anyone. It's not healthy for either party. You need to have people who are going to stand on their laurels and say, hey, look, this is our baseline reality. If you try to go outside of that, I'm gonna pull you back in and say, no, that's not true. If I'm going to say, hey, I don't have enough money to buy this PS5, but I think I want to take it. No, that's not how this works. That's not how reality works. You leave it there and freaking go earn some money to buy it.
See, you say that, and that reminds me when I was in like ninth grade, there was a gas station that was right next to the school, and we would all go after school before football games, before basketball games, and get food, drinks, whatever. And we would either go wait to play our game or we would go wait to watch the football game. And one of my buddy's little brothers decided he was going to steal a Reese's. We didn't find out that he stole this Reese's until we were walking back and he pulls it out of his pocket. And his brother beat the crap out of him with a stick. I mean, beat him up. And he had whelps on his legs, and he goes crying to his mom, Cooper beat me with a stick. And she was like, why would y'all do that? Why would y'all let this happen?
Because he's a thief.
And that's what we said. And you know what she did? She went and got her husband's belt, and she beat the crap out of him again. And that same kid, we would call him the guy from Lord of the Rings that would the precious.
Oh,
Schmeagol.
Schmeagol.
We called him Schmeagol all the time. We would bully this kid, right? But the one time we heard somebody in the cafeteria call him Schmeagol, every one of us were over there ready to beat the crap out of that person. Because we may argue, and it may be F you, F this, I hate you, you suck. And then like 2 seconds later, we're laughing and joking about everything. Like, there is a difference between surrounding yourself in an echo chamber and then surrounding yourself with people who are like-minded, because they don't necessarily believe everything that I believe, but when we have conversations about it, even if it gets heated, it just proves how much that means to that person versus me. It doesn't mean, oh, well, I'm a Buddhist. No, we're all Christians because we're not stupid, but there's a difference in approaching a friendship, and I'm so lucky that, especially including you guys, we may not agree on everything, but when we have a conversation about it, it's like, oh, you know what? Like you said something, I had no idea about the alien thing, and that's why aliens were being discussed for so long, was because it was to confuse people when the rapture came, so they would think that it was aliens. I was like, this is genius. And so I go telling all my friends, I'm like, hey, my buddy Zach is a freaking genius, bro. Like, y'all got to listen to this.
Yeah.
And that's, if you don't have an open mind, then you would never be susceptible to growing. And it doesn't mean saying, oh, well, you got to be open-minded and let me, be your boyfriend. No, that's not open-minded. That's called breaking the rules of the Bible. Like, it's so important to have people that you don't necessarily agree with that you could still get along with, because that's the only way you can grow as a person. You can't get better if you just do the same thing every day repeatedly and you expect everybody to be on your side constantly. You expect everybody to say yes to you. You get no better, you grow none, and you you live in a bubble for the rest of your life. That doesn't
Yeah.
sound like any fun to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I was talking about this, I think, yesterday at work, where a coworker of ours had a frustrating Thanksgiving
Oh yeah.
with his in-laws, and how they basically said he went over to the in-laws' house for Thanksgiving. They invited his wife in, his kids, but they told him, this is a family-only event, you're taking your food to go. And I was talking about how with that's not a family bond. You're not going to have your back when times get tough because they told you to your face, hey, we don't think you're family, right? But when it comes to someone like, let's say, my dad and his ex-in-laws, I don't know how it works when the wife is dead, but his in-laws, they don't get along together sometimes. They're not really the biggest fans of each other. But at the end of the day, you still know that they love each other, and they're willing to throw down with each other, or not with each other, but for each other. You know, there's a difference between butting heads and fighting and arguing, and there's a difference between that and, hey, you're not our family, we're not friends. I hate, basically saying I hate you. We're not equal. We're not the same. There's a difference in that kind of dynamic, and what's going on is you need to find someone who is willing to confront you, not going to be a yes man, someone who's going to challenge you, but someone who still fundamentally agrees with this is still the way the world should be.
Right.
Find that common ground, find God, which that's a very easy way to find people who are going to be like-minded or aspire to be the same as each other. But those people are going to throw down with you even if you're falling, right? They're going to criticize you for it, but they're not going to let you fall by yourself.
Exactly. They'll be the ones that are trying to pick you back up.
Yeah, they're not. They're not going to shoot up a club full of you, or engage in shootouts in the streets of Chicago. Right. That's the difference between bonds between Christians and maybe say street level gang bonds. Right. Where your homie's gonna freaking turn your back on him the first time the first chance it's advantageous to him.
Right.
Right. So if you are in a street gang, I would advise you to get out of it. I was listening to Fleckus. Their past 2 weeks they've talked about one of the guys from Migos got shot and killed. Takeoff got shot and killed, and they basically said, you know what, how to avoid that? Hang out with old white dudes at a country club. They're not gonna backstab you. They might say some racy things from time to time, but once you bond with them, they're gonna be your homie. It doesn't really matter, right? And then the next week they found a video of 21 Savage at a country club just hanging out with old white dudes, going golf with them, and they're getting along. They're probably gonna say some racy language because of the times they're from, but they still are going to hang out with you and treat you as an equal once you get in the door, and you're gonna be a crew no matter what. It's completely different from the other people that guys like Takeoff and other rappers hang out with, because those are thugs. Those are gangsters. It's all for me. I need to make my money. I need to save my skin, my life. Whatever. Everyone else doesn't matter.
You go to Bryant and ask those kids, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a doctor. I want to be an engineer. I want to work for NASCAR. I want to be a NASCAR driver. I want to be a producer. You have dreams. You have aspirations. You have things that you want to work towards. You go to Hall. Go to Pine Bluff. What do you want to be? I want to be a rapper. I want to be a professional athlete. I want to be a rapper. I want to be a professional athlete. The parents in the black community, not all of them, but the majority of them, they're not either A, not raised, or they're B, taught that you do what these other people do, and that's your only way out. Your only way out is to sell drugs. Your only way out is to be a rapper. And so they surround themselves with people who want to do the same thing. And even if you make it, look at Takeoff. That's what happens when you rap about shooting people and you rap about killing people and selling this and doing that. that's what happens to you. I mean, Mac Miller rapped about overdosing. He said he was going to go out the same way that all these other people went out. Look how he went out.
Yeah.
Young Dolph talked about how, he would go out protecting his city. And Young Dolph was a good guy. He did a lot for his community, but look at what he rapped about. And you get
Yeah.
what you deserve. And how many, like Eminem, you ever heard Eminem rap about, I mean, okay, maybe that's different. He doesn't rap about the gang-related stuff. He may not rap about things that are kids should listen to or look up to, but I mean,
Yeah.
reality catches up to you quick. And there's a reason that when you go to some of these country clubs, you don't see black people there. And very few times, because a lot of times they don't think that they have the same opportunities that everybody else does, because their parents tell them, no, you can't do that. Teachers tell them, no, you can't do that. It's all, it's a, what's the word I'm looking for? It's a repetitive cycle. It's not that they're stuck there because they're black. It's they're stuck there because the culture of their community won't allow them to think that they can do anything that they put their mind to. They're like, oh, well, you're just a black kid from the hood. You can't be a doctor. How many black kids from the? I mean, like, I'm sure there's a bunch, and they would love to tell their story and they would love to share their story. But those people are taken down, and it's you want to be like Migos. You got to go be like this guy. You got to go be like that guy.
Yeah.
Why would you want to? I mean, he wasn't even 30, man. A lot of these guys aren't, and they get killed. A lot of these kids that you don't even hear about on the news getting killed because they were in a gang and they just wanted a friend, man. They just wanted
Yeah.
somebody to love them. They just wanted somebody to look up to. And they found someone, and that person saw that they looked up to them and they took advantage of it. And that's the system. I mean, that's why it's so important that I think. Yeah, I know missions are important and going across overseas. It's great, and it's a great opportunity. But I mean, if you really love God and you really love Jesus, go to Baseline,
Yeah. You
go
need
to
be
Hall, go to
bringing
Pine
that
Bluff.
to your community.
That should be something that when people see you, they're like, hey, that's the guy that we see walking around up and down the street, and sometimes bad things happen to good people, but more often than not, if you go where God calls you to go, He's going to protect you. You're going to be doing the right thing, and those people are going to admire the fact that you are willing to share your light in the darkest places. I mean, I can't think of many cities darker than Little Rock. Outside of Chicago, outside of Detroit, maybe Memphis. But I mean, you list those three cities, Little Rock's probably the most dangerous one that's left. And I mean, you don't see any of these extremely virtuous people going and doing anything in Little Rock. They stay in their little hub, they stay in their little bubble, and they crap on those people. And it's okay to make fun of them. It's okay to make jokes. But then when it comes time to actually, do something, or like what the Democrats do, they're like, we're here to help the black community, and then they take all their money. And then here comes BLM, we're here to help the black community. Oh, we're going to take $80 million
We're going to move
from
to
you.
the white areas of,
Yeah.
of the neighborhood.
And that's exactly what happens.
Yeah.
I mean, instead of focusing on making it out of the hood, there should be a lot of people focused on not having a hood to begin with at all. There should be a sense of community and family. And that's one thing that I think that the hood does good is, you got this lady down the street that she bakes stuff and she gives it to the kids, and this lady gives everybody Christmas presents, and you know who everybody is in your neighborhood, and you can trust people in your neighborhood.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you know who the bad people are. There's bad people there. I don't know anybody that I live next to beside the old white guy that lives beside of me, the other old white guy that lives on this side of me, and the Latina family lives across the street from me. I don't even know their names. I only know Deb and Dan because it's their Wi-Fi name, and I don't think that's a good idea. And I told them that, and they changed it because I'm like, hey, somebody's gonna knock on your door and be like, "Are you Deb and Dan? We've been looking for you. You owe $20 million to the IRS." Ah, shucks.
No, they're next door. That we're just stealing their Wi-Fi.
We're stealing their Wi-Fi.
No,
yeah.
That's one thing that impressed me about lower income neighborhoods is when I went to New Orleans, right? And it is probably my least favorite freaking city in the U.S. that I've personally been to.
Agreed.
The French Quarter, I freaking hate that.
Horrifying.
It's awful. I hate it so much. But we went to a low end. This was on a mission trip. I was working on it as the media guy, and I was just filming the kids doing things. And we went to a low income neighborhood to just help clean out gutters and what's it called? The plumbing system that goes under the sewage system. We would like lift up manholes, climb in, and clean it out, right? Because a lot of them hadn't been cleaned out since Katrina. So it was like a decade's worth of crap in there. But
like real crap or like just crap?
Just like mud, dirt. We found a broken Mac that was maybe 4 generations ago. So as we were doing that, we were talking to some of the people, and from one person we talked to, they pointed us in the direction of like 5 other people, and there's like, oh yeah, well, Debbie across the street, she probably needs her storm drain cleaned out. And then we got Billy down. It's like the guy was just pointing, and everyone knew, everyone within that community knew exactly what the needs were. The lady across the street was talking about how the guy had talked to initially, he's wheelchair bound. He can't get down a flight of stairs by himself to save his life. But she was talking about how he would always call her if her light was on past 11 o'clock, because then he was worried someone had broken in or something like that. He was always watching out for her and would always call her to make sure everything was up to date. And they knew their needs. They knew exactly the patterns each one operated, so that whenever something was off, they would make sure they were on top of that. And that's something you don't get within, say, the suburban setting. Right. There's probably some neighborhoods, but let's say me personally, I didn't meet some of my neighbors until I started going on regular walks, and I just happened to bump into them. And I still don't remember some of their names. And that's something we've lost going to the suburbs. I mean, some rural places, probably there's too much land to really try to find your neighbors, but that's something that some of the lower income areas of the city do really well, is trying to help each other out and lift each other up to make sure that a rising tide helps, floats all boats. But yeah, it sucks, because then you have that contrasted with the gangs and the gang violence, and I think a large part of that is you got fatherless homes, right? As you said, it becomes this repetitive circular cycle where they're raised, encouraged to go out and get guns, join gangs, rob places, all that kind of stuff. They go out and get a baby mama, either abandon the kid or they get shot, and suddenly that kid's raised. That kid's raised without a parent, without a dad, and suddenly that's the same path they put them on. And there needs to be something to break that cycle. And anyone who does break that cycle, they're demonized. They're demonized either by the government or by that community. Kanye breaks from that cycle. Suddenly he's the enemy. Suddenly he hates Jewish people. Suddenly he's this violent right-wing person who's going to kill folks. And never mind the gang violence going on that he's calling out. You look at someone like Ben Carson, who's I believe was the first surgeon to separate conjoined twins ever. He went out and got an education. He went out and got a degree and became a very successful surgeon. But he's demonized because, oh, well, you can't be able to do that. That's not how black people are, right? That's kind of how it becomes, is anytime you break from the cycle. Ice Cube refused to take the jab. Suddenly he's the enemy of the people, and he can only get appearances on Tucker Carlson.
I mean, think about it. It's literally all about control. They want to control the population of black people with abortion. They want to control the population of black people by Section 8 housing, and make them think that the only way that you can make extra money is by applying for welfare and government assistance, instead of, not depending on the government for anything at all. Because when you depend on the government, then you think that the government is your friend. And then when you think the government's your friend, you continue to vote for the same people who give you this money. Because when they hear that Republicans are going to take away Section 8 housing, or they're going to take away welfare payments, they think that they're going to lose their way of life. That's your fault for depending on the government. That's not my problem. I don't care. I don't care if you end up homeless from this. You should have been smart enough to go get a job. You have kids, go get a job. You have a house, go get a job. You have a car, go get it. It's very simple, not very difficult to understand.
It's not hard to get a job. We all got jobs as teenagers.
Yeah, it's not difficult.
The minute I got a car, the minute I went off to get a job.
And if you don't want to work for the man, if you want to do your own thing, you can do that. You can be a DoorDash driver. You can make your own schedule.
Gig economy is thriving right now.
Yeah,
especially within the city.
You can find something that fits your needs and your wants. You can work for UPS. But you got to be able to pass a drug test. I can't do that. Well, then stop.
Get help.
There's the problem.
Stop it.
I mean, yeah, thanks, Mike.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so silly to me that people want to continuously pull bullcrap and and I'm like, you're making excuses for somebody that doesn't give two craps about you.
Mhm.
And instead of, I mean, what you said, the only good thing that comes from some of these situations is the community. And then that kind of turns into a bad thing because
Yeah.
then when you have guys like Young Dolph who help in the community and they're a pillar of the community,
Nipsey Hussle.
yeah, I mean, regardless of what their intentions are, the kids see two things. They see, wow, he's rich, and that's what he does for a living, and then that's what they want to do, and they take it and they run with it.
Either that or he's a traitor for trying to come and fix them.
Yeah,
And suddenly they're the enemy.
it's funny that, they it's so obvious that there's a group of people who run this country. When you look at the video that me and Zach were watching earlier about how all the local news channels had the same exact script, and it's getting worse and it's getting worse, they think that we're stupid.
Mm-hmm.
They think that we're so dumb that we're not going to be able to put two and two together.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's not...
To an extent, they're probably not wrong.
No, they're not.
Because a majority of people still go along with it.
Which
I mean,
scares the crap out of me.
Yeah.
I mean, how many people genuinely watch the nightly news, their local news, and they think that they're not getting the biased information when you're literally watching ABC, you're literally watching NBC. It's the same thing. And I mean,
the man on the TV said it, so it must be true.
I know your dad used to work for the news, and I can't imagine some of the conversations that he overheard or some of the things that he had to deal with because it's still the news. It's still controlling a narrative, and it's still trying to control the population that watches what you're putting out.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's so important that people like Tucker Carlson don't bow down. I mean, you got, what is it? Newsmax, and then there's another one, OEM News or something like that.
OAN.
OAN, yeah. Those... It's so important that people like that, regardless of if you got 10 people watching your stream or you got 100 million people tuning in every night, you got to keep saying what's true because that's all that we've got left.
Yeah.
When one of them stops, that's one less that we're never going to get back because what ground we have now, we have to hold. We can't push forward because you got 400 million freaking billion people over here that think that they're doing the right thing. And there's like a couple million over here, and we're fighting for God. And it's like, we're not necessarily supposed to win yet. We don't win until Jesus comes back. So it's going to be a struggle. It's going to be hard. It's going to get ugly. But somebody's got to hold the ground for these kids who are coming up so that your younger brother and that my nephew can grow up in a world still having people who are preaching the truth and have real people to look up to. Because... I mean, there's not a lot of politicians I want my kid to be like. There's not a lot of famous people I want my kid to be like. So, I mean, instead of having your kid look up to professional athletes or artists, be the father figure that you're supposed to be. Be the motherly figure that you're supposed to be. Don't rely on somebody else to do it for you. If you're not ready to have a kid, doesn't mean have an abortion. It means maybe give that kid up for adoption or...
find people who are more willing and more
sack
able.
up. Get ready and do what you're supposed to do. I mean, you can't just expect to pass that responsibility off to somebody else. And if you weren't ready to have that kid, you shouldn't have done what it took to create that kid. And it all circles back to each other. It's all interconnected between the communities and the gangs and abortion and the media. It all plays into each other because it's the same people that they want us to live in this bubble. They want us to live in a circle. And that's why I think the simulation theory is so believable because some people really do. They wake up at the same time. They eat the same thing. They do the same thing. They go to bed at the same time, like clockwork, every single day. How can people live like that and think that they're happy? Like you have to be the most depressed person on the face of the planet to do. Now, Sundays I do the same thing every Sunday, but that's because it's the only day that I get to do what I want to do. I come here, I do laundry, I play video games, and that's it.
Yeah. It's very much a mental thing. What's the infamous thing Kanye said? Well, he said a lot of infamous things. One of his earliest was slavery is a mindset, right?
Correct.
Something like that. And everyone's like, "Oh, how could you say that? The slaves back in." he wasn't talking about then. He probably was in that context, but he's applying it to right now.
Correct.
Like, what are you doing with your life to where you can break free? Yeah, sure, you might not have a massive freaking whipping you every time you do anything to deviate, but there's social slavery to this, right? Where you think about, going back to the inner city conflict, where I was listening yesterday to an interview that Bryson Gray did. He was on Zuby's podcast. Say what you will about either person, I don't really care, but I think in this instance, both of them were speaking truth. I know there's some people who don't really like Zuby, some people who don't really like Bryson Gray. It's weird.
Both of them.
I
like both of them.
There's like a crossover of people who like them, but then there's people who really like Bryson Gray but don't really like Zuby, and then people who really like Zuby don't really like Bryson
I
Gray.
don't understand why.
A lot of it is over the Jew stuff, to be honest.
Yep.
Anyway,
Zuby's an Israel guy.
yeah, he's.
Well-
I think he leans Zionist, but anyway, in this instance, they were talking about this idea, right, of kind of this social slavery, and Bryson Gray basically said he said the most successful bit of slavery that has happened recently is the welfare state, the Great Society, right? That Lyndon B. Johnson put in place, because now it's not necessarily we're coming in and we're your masters and you have to obey us. It's we're going to come in and give you welfare. You're going to become a slave to that welfare. Anytime you threaten to step out of line, or if you decide to get a husband, if you decide to try to buy a house, if you try to decide to get a job, we're going to threaten to take that away. So it's kind of, I want to say benevolent slavery, but I don't think that necessarily fits. It's almost here's this thing that you can't live without now, and if you try to change your ways, we're going to take it away.
Well, think about what Lyndon B. Johnson's most famous quote was, what he's remembered for. He said he would have black people vote Democrat for 200 years. He wasn't wrong. I mean, look at him. And then they're going to say that slavery is not a mindset. He literally had you enslaved because you dangle a couple $100 in front of somebody who doesn't want to work. White, black, brown, whatever. They're take.
The whole point the whole point of welfare is you have to stay poor in order to get it, in order to get free money. So, what's this I hear? You wanted to get married? Oh, what's this? You wanted to not abort your kid and try to raise them in a proper household? Well, that doesn't meet the qualifications for your welfare, so we're going to take that away, and now you're going to be earning money, and you can't really provide for them at this point in time. Sorry. So suddenly now you got to freaking, bail on your baby mama, freaking kill your child in order to be able to, live, essentially, within your set mindset. And so you become a slave to that kind of living. And all it takes is to just go, hey, maybe I don't want someone to just be sending me a paycheck every month. Maybe I want to make something with my life. But the minute you do that, they go, are you sure? Here's the money. You want me to take it away from you? And that's kind of how this modern form of slavery has become. In this particular instance, there's also societal slavery in terms of, if you don't call the person by the right pronouns or whatever, suddenly you're going to be blackballed. Don't talk about the banking clan, or suddenly all of Hollywood, all of the government, any big business turns against you, and you can't make it anywhere.
And they're all a part of the banking clan too, which should be a giant red flag.
Like somehow proving them right, but then if you point that out, you're also still like, oh, what, you hate the Jews? It's like, no, literally one guy talks about it, and then every big business that's somehow coincidentally also owned by a Jewish man is suddenly going, yeah, but we don't want to have anything to do with you, and suddenly you've lost your net worth has dropped by half overnight. But also don't mention the fact that all this happened, thus proving him right, because then you're the one. It's like, that makes no sense, and no layman is just going to be like, that's a little weird.
Did you see the paparazzi was harassing Ye, and he was on his phone, and it looked like he was ignoring him. And he said, this chart, he said, all the red represents every company and everything that's ran by Jewish people, and the whole screen was red.
The red media, I think, is what he said he was trying to.
It's
calling it.
It's befuddling to me that people haven't figured out that there's things that you're not supposed to know, and this is one of them, and that's why they don't like Kanye. He's not anti-Semitic. Like Bryson Gray was on a podcast.
It's like are you talking about the BBC
Yeah,
thing
the
ran by
Scottish
the
guy.
Scottish guy?
They
Yeah.
cut him off of the air
Yeah.
because he was speaking the truth. And
Yeah,
then,
they're like, don't. The dude was like, oh, don't you think that's a little problematic to say? And Bryson Gray's like, well, no. If you just look at the structures of all of this, look at who's in charge, and he goes, I'm sorry for about what he's about to say, but we're gonna have to. It's like he's literally just looking at a piece of paper and seeing what the world is. Like he's not going, and thus the funny mustache man probably had a point. Like that. None of that's being spit out. It's just. Isn't it a little weird that, what was it, 2% of the population is represented in over 50% of the elite status, uh, the elite freaking class up there? Half the banks, all of Hollywood, most of the president's cabinet is all possessed by people who take up 2% of the pop. Like, that doesn't line up. That's a little weird.
it shows you how stupid the devil is, because instead of taking the approach of, well, you know what, that could be a crazy coincidence. We're so glad that you pointed that out. That's interesting. It's no, why would you say that?
Yeah.
What? It's like a kid who's caught in a
that
lie.
reaction proves you right. It
Yeah.
would be one thing, because I'm not saying that mathematically there's probably some possibility this ended up happening because this group of people are known for their shrewd business practices, right? There's a long line of in their religion of being able to practice their business well, like that's culturally ingrained within them. Okay, maybe statistically there's a way this happened, but the fact that when someone just goes, look at the percentage of all this, and your first instinct is, how dare you? You must hate Jewish people. You aren't going to be allowed to work ever again. No one, or the other reaction is, I saw a clip. Anthony Cumia was on, I believe, Gavin McGinnis's show, and during election night, and this lady had called and they were talking to her, and Anthony Cumia, I think, was like drunk, but he basically was defending Kanye, and was going, no, you just look at all of this, man, like it's crazy. And she just goes, oh, and here comes the talk about the Jewish space lasers, and it's like, no one is saying the freaking Jewish space lasers, or like, oh, they built the HARP and they're in control of the weather. It's just, look at who is in charge of Paramount, of Warner Brothers, everyone in Hollywood. Look at who's in charge of the banks. It's just, look who's in charge of the media.
They control your money. They control what you can and can't see. They control what your kids see. They control the subliminal messaging.
Everyone
that is
who's in
within
charge
these
of
things.
that just so happened to be a part of not just the same ethnic group or whatever, but part of the same general religion. Yeah, religious group that happens to be known for its high dedication to it.
How do you think that the Antichrist comes to power so quickly? Because it's not going to be a coincidence that the same group of people that deny God are the same group of people who are going to perpetrate the Antichrist. And when the day comes that person's exposed and all the Jewish people start following them, you're going to go to the hell that you deserve to be in, because at the end of the day, there's truth and then there's false. And when people who don't believe that Jesus Christ is the Messiah have an opinion, I tend to kind of throw it in the trash can where it belongs.
Yeah.
And these are the same people who are going to allow the Antichrist to come to power. Look at what they control. Look at what they do on a day-to-day basis. And tell me that's in a perfect spot for somebody to slide right in and just... boom. They're like, oh, because what is it that the Jewish people are waiting for? They're waiting on an extremely rich person to come to power that's a Jewish person.
That, yeah.
I mean, boom. I mean, it's not difficult
think
to think about.
Think about the way the religion is structured, right? Where they denied Jesus Christ was the coming Messiah because they were expecting someone to come in and be a conqueror. So part of their religion, you could even argue one of the cornerstones of their religion, is Christ wasn't the Messiah. The Messiah is still coming. That's a pretty easy way for the Antichrist to slide in. Is that not? Some guy to come in as a conqueror, someone who's going to be this rich, maybe a businessman or prince or something, to come in with a freaking riding a horse with a sword. It's going to be easy for the religion that thinks that's going to happen to go, there's our Messiah, and prop him up. Like it's pretty easy for that to happen.
It's going to get to the point where it's so hard to deny the Bible because of what's in Revelations, because we're going to start seeing everything come to pass.
Yeah.
And we're going to be like, yo, and then everybody else is going to be like, nah, it's just
tried
a
to tell
coincidence.
you.
We're
Yeah,
like,
it's
oh,
oh, what do you think the Jewish space? I don't care about no freaking Jew.
space laser, that's a real thing.
I think that I honestly have no idea if that's like a legit conspiracy people believe, or if it's like,
funny.
or if the conspiracy is that they invented the conspiracy and then said this is what the anti-Semites like. I wouldn't be surprised if it was just like, oh crap, we can't have them just looking at the like statistical data and just pointing at it. So we're just gonna have to invent, oh, these people believe in effing Jewish space lasers.
When the space laser turns on, it goes, oh, geez.
They want to paint it as like the people who just point this stuff out, like Ye or
Candace
Anthony Cumia, Candace Owens. They want to act like these people are also buying into the Jewish space laser, that they believe that the freaking every single Jew on the face of the planet freaking like does a little Naruto thing and then gets teleported to the Jewish watchtower from Justice League and freaking control a giant laser from space and the freaking weather control machine and are like, oy vey, what planet or what country are we gonna wipe out today? Like that's not what anyone believes. I mean, there's people who probably believe it, but that's not what like Ye is saying. That's not what Anthony Cumia is saying. It's just they're going, it's interesting if you look at this, right? Oh, hey, I was signed to a record label run by people who are Jewish. Hey, literally every other record label that owns rap is owned by a Jewish person, and anytime a rapper tries to step out of line and say anything out of line, who's coming in? It's either the Jewish CEOs or the attorneys that also are Jewish who work for them. So it's like, and then as a result of just saying that, instead of, oh, well, Ye, he's a little silly. It's, oh, how dare you? You think we have freaking space lasers? We're going to blackball you from every industry. Adidas dropped. Skechers, we're kicking you out. Like, everything. And it's like, you could have just, like, allowed people to dismiss this by just going, well, that's Ye. He's known for his silly talk, right? You didn't have to prove him right.
It blew up.
I know. I mean, that like originally I didn't really care about the whole Jewish thing, but then the minute Ye opened his mouth and then you saw what happened to him, I'm like,
something's got to give.
Like, me doth think the lady protests too much.
Like Ben Shapiro tweeted this morning, a good way to not accidentally dine with a vile racist and anti-Semite you don't know is not to dine with a vile racist and anti-Semite you do know. First of all, this is the same guy who pushed the COVID vaccine. This is the same guy who all of a sudden gives a crap about what CNN and the left have to say. And it's like, the people who work under you will say, like Candace Owens, why attack her at all? Why do you attack? Why would you bring somebody
go after
on
her publicly as well?
Yeah. What are you trying to prove, and why do you hold values that are so far from the values that you claim to actually have?
Yeah.
Because most conservatives right now are saying what we're saying. We really don't care what the Jewish community has to say because they don't have the same religious beliefs that we do. It's no different than going up against a Muslim person. Like, sorry, at the end of the day, I'm not going to give a crap because you're not going to change my mind, just like they're not going to give a crap because they believe something totally different.
And also just notice who's having the biggest reactions to this kind of stuff. It's the Jewish people who own these big companies. That's like, what's his name? Mark Lobliner. He's a Jewish guy who is a fitness trainer. He doesn't give a crap about any of this, right? His reaction's just, hey, I mean, if they want to say it, sure, whatever. I don't care. I got a business to run. Like, you look at him and he's like, oh, yeah, he's just a normal Jew. He's a normal Joe. Who cares if he's a Jew?
Normal Jew.
I was going to say normal dude or normal Joe, and then dude and Joe combined together and just came out to be Jew. He's a normal guy who's just running a business, so he doesn't have time to care about what Ye's saying about friggin' Shapiro or whatever. But they're having a big reaction, maybe just because it's true. You know what I'm saying? Like that's all I'm pointing out is It's obvious. It's obvious that freaking your average Ben Schmidt down the street who works as an art instructor has nothing to do with this and doesn't care because he's busy trying to run a business and provide for his family.
Right.
It's just you just look at who's in charge, and that's who you need to worry about.
Right.
Right. And what they want to conflate it with is, oh, you want to hate all the Jews, blah blah blah, and it's like, dude, I don't care if my neighbor is Jewish because I know he's freaking waking up and going to work and coaching a basketball team for a living. Obviously, he doesn't have
Probably
the power,
suck.
influence, or anything. Like he doesn't have any of that crap because he's just a normal guy, and that's what they want to conflate it with. So, then when you think about people who are just mindlessly uh, absorbing CNN or ABC or even Fox News at this point, and they're going, "Oh wow, yes, this is what they think." It's like, no, it's just we looked at who's in charge of literally everything, and they just all happen to be a part of a group that is such a freaking minority in this country. If this was Israel, yeah, probably I wouldn't raise my eyebrow. If I was in Saudi Arabia and 90% of everything was run by
Saudis?
Muslims,
Like, oh,
it was
okay.
Muslims, I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. This is an Islamic state.
Yeah.
But we're here in a supposedly Christian country, a country that's majority WASPs, right? Majority Anglo-Saxon, white Anglo-Saxon Protestants. I think that's a majority of this country.
Huh.
Right?
You said wasps. I was like,
Yeah,
WASPs.
it's the acronym. But we're a majority white Protestant European type crowd, yet who's in charge of running everything in this country? It's not that. That just doesn't add up to me.
and look at like governor, like Asa. People assume that the governor holds power, when in fact the power is held by the giant corporations that are in that state, because those are the people lining
Walmart.
your pockets.
Yeah.
Walmart, Tyson, Riceland, Texas. I couldn't imagine the governor of Texas. All those businesses and all those companies in his ear, multi-billion-dollar companies. New York, California. The reason California is liberal isn't because the people who are running are mostly liberal. It's because the people who run those businesses are mostly liberal, and they push their agenda on their employees, and they push their agenda on the politicians. And so by default, those politicians push it onto the voters. And you see cheating in Arkansas in elections with issue 4. You see cheating in Arizona. There are so many instances of cheating with Republicans and Democrats that this right here with Kanye and Candace Owens and everybody else who's getting involved, this is the start of the end of the world, I guess you could say, because I mean,
yeah.
this is the part where God starts to separate the wheat from everything else. This is where you stop identifying as Republican, you stop identifying as a Democrat, and you start just telling everybody, I'm a Christian first. I'm a Christian first. Because even though Kanye still has yet to fully grasp, I think, what the Bible actually means by salvation and all these other, but that's fine. He's stepping in
He's
the right
a more
direction.
effective voice than people who've been Christians their whole life.
Yeah, I would listen to Kanye preach and say a couple of bad words in his sermon before I would even step foot in Joel Osteen's church, a man that pretends to be a Christian. Like, there's a difference between saying, you know what, I fall short of the glory of God every day, and God, use me, let me do what you want me to do, versus I'm going to use God to make money.
Yeah.
Because one of those guys is trying to do his best. He falls short, but he knows he falls short. And that's a mindset I think a lot of us should start to take on, because we do perform for an audience of one, and it is God. And
Yeah.
if you don't put on a good performance for him and do what he tells you to do, buddy, you're getting a red X. You're not going to Hollywood. I mean, it's OV. I mean,
And I mean, some of the craziest and most broken people right now are the ones being used the most by God, because they have that passion, right? They're not using the basic back row Baptist or whoever who's like, oh, you wore a hat to. This is a personal thing, so I'm just.
I
I'm
get
a
the
little-
same thing
I'm
in
a little
church.
touchy-feely about it, but of like, oh, do you work for the church? Oh, you dare wear a hat in the sanctuary? It's like, I didn't have time to do my hair, so I just put a hat on. Like, that's what you're worried about in this moment. You're not even in the service right now, my guy. Like, you're walking around the hallways and getting onto me because I'm walking around doing my job and having a hat.
But those are the same people who try and fit God in their pocket and say, well, I know this is what God said, but I'm sure I can tell him why I did it when I get into heaven. And he's going to look you dead in the eyes and say, no, I make the rules. You're a worthless human being. I created you to do what I tell you to do, not vice versa. And when I talk to people at work about like the LGBTQ community, I said, well, we were talking about Leviticus and how Leviticus says that homosexuals would burn like a bundle of sticks, which translates to a different word.
It's kind of funny, but
I mean, it proves that that's the reason that they're trying to get us to stop using that word is because it's biblical. It comes from God, and I don't think that we should tolerate things that God doesn't tolerate.
Yeah.
And when you say stuff like that, people are like, oh, well, you hate gay people. No, I don't hate gay people. I hate gay. I hate the sin. I hate the I don't hate the people who make porn. I don't hate the people who are the actors. I hate the action of what it creates and the thought that comes from that. And people don't think about anything. But when you start standing on God's word and then other Christians try and tell you you're wrong, double down. Make them feel like crap because there's nothing else that's going to reach them. Because when you tell them, no, that's not what God said, and you're going to go to hell right there with them because you didn't do what God said to do when it came time to standing up, they kind of have to think a little bit after that. And, some of them at work, they're just kids. But one person in particular was really giving me crap. And I said, do you go to church on Sunday? And they were like, yeah. I said, go tell your pastor everything that you told me about what you believe and how you believe. And they were like, no, because my pastor will say the same thing you did. Ding, 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 ding. And then in that moment, you could see it in their face. They were like, oh. And I'm like, look, you're a kid. You're going to be stubborn. But like when you said the hat thing, I wore a MAGA hat to church one time. And this lady said, well, how dare you wear that trash in here? He's an evil person. Ooh, Pastor Husky heard that lady, and he had a field day with her. He said, ma'am, if you believe the opposite of what this man believes, this is the wrong church for you. He said, you don't even need to be in church, matter of fact. He said, you need to go find a satanic. He got mad. I've never seen him get mad before. And
what bugs me is people who are like, oh, well, I don't want my church to get political. I get it to an extent, right? Like, you don't want your pastor to come in and just be like, oh, I endorse Sarah Huckabee Sanders for that.
Right.
You don't want that. But there are too many issues nowadays, and that have been here since the beginning of time, that are inherently tied together with politics.
Correct.
The gay stuff, that is inherently tied in with our religion. The abortion tied in with our religion. If your pastor's not talking about this kind of stuff that's straight out of the Bible, you need to find a different church because they don't care about the culture, right? And church needs to be engaged in the culture. Church needs to be actively engaged with everything going around it. Do we have to make a definitive statement on how much we should get taxed? As a church, probably not. I mean, Jesus says what he says about taxation, but he doesn't say like, "Oh,
no taxation without thou representation."
like Jesus didn't go, "Well, I think a proper tax rate should probably be about a 2.8% income tax, and we need to probably allocate that." Like that, yeah, sure. If your pastor's talking about that, that's a little weird because that has nothing to do with our belief system.
Jesus' banker is Trump.
Yeah. So like that. Okay, fine. But when it comes to definitive cultural issues that have become political because they're cultural, right? Politics is downstream from culture. We need to be involved in culture, and that's how you affect politics. And if your pastor's refusing to say anything specifically about the abortion stuff, the gay stuff, the transgender stuff, even other cultural things that I'm not thinking of right now, you need to find a different church, or you need to go up to them and say, why aren't you talking about this? Because it says here, and here in the Bible on this issue, here, and here in the Bible on this issue. You need to say that as a pastor. And if your pastor's not saying it, you as a congregation need to tell them, you need to talk about this because this is biblical.
Look at the communities that either A, don't say anything, or B, support those things, those churches. Look at those communities. And you see the pride flag, you see shootings, you see all this bad stuff. You come to small town Arkansas, you don't see none of that crap. because these pastors down here, for the most part, they don't play bullcrap games.
Mhm.
And if you want to come to their church and you're a man and you want to dress as a woman, you better be ready to have the power of God move through you, because
Mhm.
those pastors are going to lay hands on you so fast you ain't going to be able to know what hit you.
Yeah.
And it's so
Satan, get away from thee.
like
But
it is so crazy to me how people don't see that when you have a church in your community and you have a strong pastor that leads that church, it is not a coincidence that that community forms a defense mechanism of sorts against evil.
mhm.
And I mean, it's starting to kind of seep in, which means, churches need to start going to schools. I don't give two craps what the governor says. I don't give two craps what the state law says. Let's start sending pastors to churches and saying, hey, the period before lunch, we want our pastor to come speak to your school about transgenderism and about abortion and about gay marriage and how it's not okay. Because until we can do that, until pastors are allowed to go into schools and preach, keep those stupid effing F words away from schools.
Yeah.
Keep these kids who want to piss in litter boxes out of school. Kick them out. Kick the gay kids out. Kick the
If you don't want
trannies
to
out.
behave like a human, don't.
Yeah, I mean, if
No,
you're not going to
yeah.
allow both sides of the story to be told, and if you're not going to really truly know what free speech means, where both sides who really probably don't like each other, probably hate each other, unless they can stand on a stage and have a non-violent or just have a conversation.
Mhm.
Don't derail it and have an argument, but have a conversation. Until both sides can be heard, neither side needs to be in school, and that crap does not need to be allowed there, because
Yeah.
that's what they want to do. When you see little kids walking around with strippers and you see little kids walking around at gay clubs, that's it for me, man. I
Mhm.
mean, that's it. That's the last straw.
Yeah. The other thing I want to add to this too is it's also important for your pastor to be talking about this, because it lets people who identify in this kind of lifestyle know where you as a church stand, right? Where like my pastor, he did an entire sermon on the gay issue, and he was basically, I
Did
mean,
you record it?
I mean, it's out there on
I'm
YouTube
gonna
or
have to
something.
watch it.
But he went through Leviticus and was talking about how it is wrong, but it's also like, but we are also a religion of forgiveness, and like this is where we stand. So if you want to join us as a member, or if you want to, dedicate yourself to following Christ, this is what you have to reject. That doesn't mean we won't accept you, though. Like, you are welcome to,
Right.
like, you have to establish that line in the sand so they know when they walk in, hey, this is the stuff that's wrong. But now that you know that, please come in and we will talk it through with you. You have to stand up to it and let them know where you stand so that you can open your doors to them and they can come willingly.
And
You
this
can't
is
you can't trick them or lie to them
right.
to get them into the church.
My belief is the same way that when you have somebody who's addicted to drugs, addicted to alcohol, whatever their sin, whatever their problem is, when they come into the church and they get on that altar and they start praying and you're up there praying with them, and you're like, look, if you mess up, it's okay. You're not gonna be perfect. And they come back to you and they're like, oh, I smoked crack this week, or oh, I went and did this again, or I went and did that again. The most of the time the pastor's gonna say, we all fall short. It's okay. It's fine. And the same way, when a gay person comes into a church and they want to get rid of that sin, when they go back to their life that next week and then they come back to church on Sunday and like, look, I messed up. You can't be like, oh well, you're just going to hell anyway.
The
You've
key
got to
thing is,
be
yeah.
patient. You've got to love them. You've got to show them that the you have to be the physical representation of God's love, because when you're a pastor, that's your job.
Mm.
And it's expected of you to say, hey, God's going to forgive you. It's okay. Don't hate yourself. Don't get mad at yourself. Grow from this and learn from it. There's a point in time where, yes, yelling and screaming and pounding your fists and getting pissed off is okay. But when you're face to face with somebody who's struggling with something like that and they get on their face before God and they're serious about getting rid of that sin, you better be just as serious about showing that person the love of God, because they need it more than anybody else does.
Yeah. Yeah. The key thing I think you need to drill into people's heads is repentance.
Repent.
You need to be repentant about this. Like that, it's okay if you mess up, but you have to come with a repentant heart. That's the key to all of this. It's not, oh well, it's okay, God will forgive me, so I'm gonna keep
Right.
it. No, it's this. Here's what's wrong. And if you do it, and inevitably when you do some of these, you have to come with a repentant heart and be like, I messed up. I need help fixing this. And too many churches either go, oh, well, we're not going to establish what's wrong because we don't want to be too hateful. Or it's, hey, we're going to judge you because you messed up. And we totally don't do that, right? So, and you need to come into that middle and go, this is what's wrong. And now we need to work through it with you if you are truly repentant of it. And it'd be another thing if it's like, well, I don't care because I don't think it's a sin. At that point, you need to
Right.
like spiritually
Smack 'em.
smack them in the face. Yeah. Before we run out of time, I did want to get to the whole Ye debacle because this has been a wild timeline to be following. Where I think the first thing I saw was Ye hanging out with Milo Yiannopoulos. You know who he is, right?
No.
He is a former gay. He was known, I think, maybe back in 2015, 2016. Yeah. He was pretty big then. He was one of the first people to be banned off of a lot of social media platforms, like high profile. He would go to schools for presentations, and people would show up in mass protest because he said choice language. He was very provocative, but he was also a very openly, flamboyantly gay dude. Who liked to poke buttons. He turned to Catholicism, converted, and rejected the homosexual lifestyle. He started working for Marjorie Taylor Greene, and now he's going to be Kanye's new campaign manager.
Was that supposed to be innuendo? Poke buttons? Because you said poke buttons, and I thought that you meant that in a funny way, and then I realized that you meant it like he liked to push his buttons.
Yeah, he pushed, but he still likes to do that, but now he adds it on to the, hey, gays are going to burn it out.
Oh, that's funny.
So he's been meeting with Ye, and I was like, well, that's interesting. That's kind of cool that he's hanging out with Ye. Ye's reaching out to a guy who's very openly religious and, very... The story of being a homosexual guy and rejecting that lifestyle to follow God is very compelling. And then there was some footage. At first it was blurry of him getting off of a plane, and it looked like, I forget.
No, this was in the studio.
But it was Fic Nuentes. I don't know if we can actually say his name on YouTube or not, but whatever. But it was like a blurry picture, and it's like, oh, Nick is seen with Ye. And I'm like, I don't know if that looks like him, but then we got full videos of him walking off of planes with Kanye, and I think he's going to be like social media manager. They went to Mar-a-Lago.
Communications director.
And it was Ye, Milo, and Nick, who all went to Mar-a-Lago to meet up with Trump.
Hey.
And they walked out. I think we have the video they put out immediately afterwards. It was video 4.
Here we go.
All right. So this was immediately after the Mar-a-Lago debrief.
It has no audio.
Oh, well.
One moment.
Whatever.
We need to have one of those slides that says we're having technical issues. We'll be right back.
Yeah. Well, basically what it was he was talking to Milo and was basically saying he had asked Trump to be his vice president. And that Trump was particularly perturbed at that. And Trump's response, he truthed out, was basically like, oh, yeah, Ye brought some guys I hadn't heard about or something like that. And that's what the Shapiro tweet was addressing that you talked about earlier. Which, I mean, it's an interesting thing to put out that's not necessarily, oh, I love these guys, but also not, condemning them. It was just kind of, some guys showed up. I didn't really know much about them, but whatever.
What about what Trump said about Ye's ex-wife, calling her?
Oh, I heard about that. Yeah,
I heard about it.
Talked about it in there,
but I don't understand. One, I don't understand when this happened. Was it while Ye was married, or was it not? And two, what on God's green earth did Kim do to piss Trump off so badly that he would? Because I've never even heard stories about him talking like that before. Like that's
Maybe it was just locker room talk. I don't know.
But I mean, like
Yeah.
she had to have done. I'm not saying that either side is wrong. I understand Ye's perspective, why he's mad
Mm.
or upset at the fact that he would do something like that. I get that point, but at the same time, if he had a valid reason to do it, he had a valid reason to do it, and I don't know what that reasoning would be. I just didn't know if y'all knew anything about why. Because I mean,
I'm not 100% on it.
Okay. I pulled it up on Twitter. It might work here.
Okay.
There we go. Nope.
No audio.
Bruh.
There's no audio coming through.
No, I
that's
think
great.
it's an audio mixer issue.
Yeah.
what is that?
That's Trump and Ye.
Yeah.
Anyway, basically that was kind of the summary of it.
And then also have the Axios article that they wrote,
Okay.
which gave some more details on the meeting.
All right.
Here we go. And there's a lot of this stuff. This is all
He
more
seems
details.
very taken with Fuentes.
Is this?
I love how they're really trying to hammer in, like, oh, Fuentes is a white nationalist, not neo-Nazi, and Trump kind of liked him. It's like, oh, what? Okay.
Now, I mean, I don't know. I just.
I mean,
It's so fun. Is Axios, is that like nonpartisan? Are they leaning left?
well, I think it might be left leaning, but some of the stuff they say in here seems to be accurate because it's Trump supporting Fuentes, despite all the people saying that Trump disavowed him on Truth Social, and it's all this stuff.
Yeah.
Like Trump at one point turned to Ye and said, "I really like this guy. He gets me," according to the source.
Hmm.
And
Nice.
then,
I'd
but
love to be a fly on the wall in some of these rooms.
That would have been
Yep.
a very interesting lunch to sit in on.
Fuentes told the president he preferred him to be authentic, and that Trump seemed scripted and unlike himself during his recent 2024 announcement speech.
He has seemed kind
He
of.
did.
Now, maybe his strategy is, I mean, what it should have been in 2016 or in 2020. Keep your mouth shut. Let Joe Biden talk a lot and make no sense, and
And then
everyone's going to
point and
vote
laugh
for
at
you.
him.
Well,
And when they don't, 2.0's coming. 2.0 will be here if they see CHEAT. 2.0 will be here.
well, I don't think so. Honestly, I like 2016 Trump better.
No, I'm
Because,
saying
I mean-
2020 Trump. 2020 Trump. I mean, I liked it too. Don't get me wrong. Like, it got him elected, but your best strategy right now, when the person running against you has dementia, let them babble. Let them when their sinking ship is going down, don't give them any reason to fire anything back at you that's of value. Because if he just doesn't say crap, everybody knows who Trump is. Everybody knows what Trump is about. He's got his base. He's got his supporters. The only way you win those people in the middle, just bring it down just a little bit. Now, I don't know why he's doing it, but I think that it's not a bad idea to wait until the presidential debates come around and then bam, smack him in the face. Because they're like, oh, he's quiet, he's old, he's given up, he knows he's already lost. And then that first time he's on TV with all those other conservatives, I pray to God that Asa Hutchinson is on that stage and
It
he
will be
just
hilarious.
absolutely annihilates him. And then I'd love to see Kanye be up there too. That would
Yeah.
be the most interesting
It will
television.
be great. Like them tag teaming and just going after every other candidate. I think
fun.
so. Ye was was heavily implying that he's gonna run.
He's said it in some of these interviews,
Yeah.
but he
He's
hasn't
putting-
officially announced yet.
He's putting on all of his stuff, all of his merch that he's selling. He's putting 2024 on it.
Yeah,
He
Ye
called it all
24.
back,
Ye
and then he.
24 on it.
Yeah, I love it, man. I want one so bad.
I think he said he's going to sell them all for $20
I love
Nice.
that.
because
2024.
well, he was talking about how some of these artists and some of these celebrities will sell super expensive clothes, and all the
It's
fans
ridiculous.
are.
But it's like
You want to get like a jacket for
it's
like
like
a small band.
Balenciaga and Adidas. Like, I mean, it's not like he's giving away cheap material. Like, he's giving away the real deal,
Mhm.
and it's gonna be so funny when people are. What are you gonna say? It's just like when Trump gave away his salary. How even if you don't like him, what are you gonna say now? How are you gonna hate on him for doing this? Like, come
He
on.
hates the Jews.
He didn't
But-
give it away to Jewish kids. He gave it away to white.
say
He didn't
this.
give black kids anything.
Yeah, I'll say this. I think if they manage to get Trump in on this, this will be one of the most successful things we've seen because that team is going to have such a wide range of appeal.
Trump, yay, 2024.
Trump,
I
yay,
think Ye
with
should be
Nick
the front
and-
since he's cultural icon.
Mhm.
and stuff.
I mean, I wouldn't mind,
I-
but Trump's ego wouldn't let him.
well,
Yeah,
I hope he does because Ye also needs Trump for economy and stuff.
Oh yeah, they need each other. It's just I think that their egos are both so big that they're gonna both like. It'll be the first time that we see no vice president. It's gonna be president number 1 and president number 2.
we are co-presidents.
That's what they need to do. Is that legal? Can
I
you
don't
just
know.
declare and then like the first 2 years? Trump does all the president stuff and Ye does all the vice president stuff, and then at the 2-year mark they swap.
It's just- I don't know. All I'm saying is I really hope this becomes the ticket because I think they'll be freaking unstoppable, and I am very excited to see it.
It's gonna be fun to see all the people who decide to throw their hat in the ring because
Oh, we can't have this. I love though.
No,
Everyone was
also-
against Trump, and then when he did his Mar-a-Lago announcement, they're like, "Oh wow, he looks so great and presidential." It's like, no, he was so low energy and boring,
Yeah,
and like
He's
not
like
at all
Jeb
what
Bush,
we need.
low energy Jeb.
Yeah, he was low energy,
Low energy
Jeb.
Jeb.
But all the people who were against Trump are now suddenly singing his praises because of that. And then when Ye shows up with Nick and Milo, it's, oh, they're trying to tank his opportunity. It's like, bro, you were against Trump like 2 weeks ago. I don't need to hear your opinion. on
Right.
this."
We'll see. I
Yeah.
mean, I will take Trump over Biden 20 out of 20 times.
This is such a crazy timeline, and I'm so glad I'm alive to be a part of it.
You wanna see
I am pretty
this
sick of
also?
living through these major historical events, buddy. I don't know about you.
I just found this while I was looking for the other Axios article.
Oh, Governor Asa Hutchinson on Sunday slammed former President Trump for meeting last week with white nationalist Nick Fuentes, calling it's very troubling.
Yeah,
I promise you,
he's gonna lose. This is gonna be so hilarious.
when I see Asa Hutchinson at our Christmas party, oof, buddy, I hope you're ready. I am coming for you.
Someone needs
There's
to
going to
be
be
there
a
with a
potato in your tailpipe, and there's going to be sugar in your gas tank. So have some fun.
That was either like a really weird homosexual innuendo.
Be a potato in your tailpipe.
You're just gonna be sitting there.
What
eating
is it with our
Christmas-
innuendos on accident today? I mean,
You're just gonna be sitting there
All this
eating
gay
your
talk is
Thanksgiving
turning
dinner,
me
and then
on.
suddenly you're gonna have a potato in your tailpipe.
There's some sugar in your gas tank.
see? It's rubbing off. God forgive
Hey
me.
yo, well, hold up now. Rubbing off.
Rubbing off.
I can't talk anymore.
So right now, how excited are you for this? Like, in terms of, do you think it's optimistic to look at this Ye and the Trump stuff? Is that going to succeed, and is that going to be good for our country, or should we just go with a different option
I think
like Asa
if
or DeSantis?
there are better options than what are currently in office. There are better options than what we are currently looking at from currently elected Republican officials. There are plenty of good options that either A, have previously held an office, or B, have never held an office. Like, not one name that I love this guy, but I don't know if he'll ever decide to run, Trey Gowdy. Trey Gowdy was one of the freaking meanest people. He didn't give two craps about what those liberals had to say. He's a former judge, very intelligent man. He was a representative out of South Carolina for a few years, and then he did it for, I think, 8 years and said, you know what? I mean, I'm a man of my word. I'm not turning this into a career. I'm done. And will he run for something? Maybe. But he also said he wants to be appointed to the Supreme Court. And you put that guy on the Supreme Court, whoo, buddy. Wait,
We'll have some fun.
you thought Roe v. Wade getting overturned was bad. Wait until we overturn all the LGBTQ crap that they put in there, and then because
Or the Respect for Marriage Act
When-
that passed recently.
when I'm president, if that's not gone, the only marriage that's going to be legal in this country is straight.
It's me and my hand. No.
Like, and if you don't like it, when the states start making their own laws and they start pushing the LGBTQ, No more funding for you. You're done. I don't care if your kids end up half retarded. Doesn't matter to me. I don't care. It's your own problem. And then guess what? People are going to leave those states because those schools are going to be bad. And oh, don't leave. We won't do it anymore. Oh, it's too late. And now your government's collapsed. And now the federal government can come in, take that land over. We can do whatever we want to do with it. And I mean, yeah, the federal government's bad, but whenever we're the ones doing it, it's not going to be bad. We're going to be doing things the right way. I'm very excited to see how all of this pans out because it means that we're finally at the end of the Biden administration. We're finally this could be the first time we don't see a president run for re-election. I mean,
because he's too dead to do.
He doesn't know where he is or who he is. I mean, the 22nd of November, his what do you call it? Secretary of the press. She said that he was fully informed and had been sitting in on luncheons and meetings with different people about this particular subject. And then 2 days later, when he's at home for Thanksgiving, they're like, well, you know, they said you were already working on this. How is this going? And he said, oh, I haven't sat in on any of these meetings yet. And I'm like, you know, God's going to expose these people because when you have dementia and you have Alzheimer's and you can't talk, God is going to speak through that man more than he ever has, and they're going to go, oh, crap. Because at one point in time, before he's not president anymore, he's going to say some pedophilia-ish stuff.
Yeah, I'm going to be very curious to see what happens when he just accidentally goes, and then me and my niece Ashley, we got in the shower together. Like the minute he says that, I'm like, wow, how is the media gonna react? Like straight up, because they're like, how the heck are they gonna try to cover that up if he just comes out and just be like, that diary that Ashley wrote about me, 100% true. Go read it. It was a good read.
That'll be the point in time where they try and make pedophilia socially acceptable. They already are.
That'll be the time where they really do the push for the map thing. You know what you do with maps, kids?
You burn them.
You hang them on walls.
Oh yeah. There's that too. Amen.
I mean, that's what I do with my maps. I put the map there and just nail them to the wall. I'm talking about maps,
Maps. Everybody hates maps.
Yeah.
I mean, Google Maps.
They look nice on a wall. That's really all you got any use for.
What do maps and apples have in common?
What?
They both look good hanging from a tree.
Anyway.
In Minecraft.
In Minecraft.
I love Minecraft. We talk about Minecraft every week.
I know.
We just love Minecraft.
Literally, this is a Minecraft podcast.
If our if our little thumbnail for this thing isn't just a Minecraft block, yeah. Steve. Is his name Steve in the game, or do they just give him the name Steve?
I think he's It's like the dude's Steve, the girl is Alex, and then whatever other skin.
Is she non-binary? Because if she's not, then I'm gonna be very upset.
Nah, we kill non-binary.
Protest Minecraft.
In Minecraft.
In Minecraft.
In Minecraft.
We shoot up schools in Minecraft.
This is the biggest Minecraft podcast.
Minecraft is king.
Yeah. But for me, I'm very excited to see where this goes. I think this will make or break because I think this is the highest level of exposure Nick's getting right now, which is crazy. Because everyone wants to paint him into this corner of like, oh, he's got his cozy TV thing and no one cares about him. He's so irrelevant. But dude's meeting with the former president now. And I think that's a sign of the tide changing, of people wanting to push back against the system. So if this works, I think this it'll be great, obviously. But I think this will also help rejuvenate the country and maybe be another Reformation or Great Awakening type deal. If it fails, I think it's pretty safe to say we're going to be at the end times. I think this is going to be kind of the make or break thing that either allows the U.S. to thrive again or makes the U.S. implode in on itself, because then we're going to have another 4 years of pedophiles in charge.
Let's say that Trump wins the Republican nomination, right? Mm. And Biden decides not to run, or his handlers tell him he's not running again, or he dies, whatever the case will be. Who is that Democrat that's going to be running for president?
Maybe Gavin Newsom.
Yeah, I was going to say Gavin Newsom, probably. He's like the only one who will probably have any form of galvanization. I would maybe say AOC, but she...
Do either one of those people have a chance against Donald Trump?
Well, I mean...
In reality...
If you raid some graves and dig up some dead people. I think they
I mean,
So you're onto something there because
if you extra fortify that election with with corpses and people who don't exist, yeah, sure, maybe. If you get He-Man and Darth Vader to put in a couple Democratic votes, I think you got it worked out.
this is the most important election in the history of the world because this will determine whether there's a civil war or not, to be honest with you. Because, I mean, you know, 2016, they cheated. That's just a defense mechanism because you expected to win and you didn't campaign Hillary Clinton. You're a loser and you'll always be
It
a
was
loser.
the Russians.
The second one, we could prove that there was foul play.
Well, at the very least, we can prove there was foul play, and then no one did anything about it. Like with the
Yes.
like the more Russia stuff, they went hardcore investigating it and came up and said, "Yeah, we got nothing." With this, it was, "What about this actual thing that happened? What about this actual thing that happened?" Literally, we have a case where an entire county of dead people voted, and they go, "Nah, I think you're a conspiracy theorist." It's like, isn't it your job to make sure that the election was done fairly?
Look at the representatives from all the states in both elections. In 2016, you had more Republicans complaining that Trump cheated than you did Democrats. And then in 2020, you have more people saying Trump needs to shut up and stop talking about the election being stolen from him that were Republican than there were Democrat. And so you can't tell me that Republicans aren't just as much of the problem as the Democrat Party is. But this time around,
And then you also look at what happened just this year with this election, and everyone's just kind of like, "Oh,
Carrie Lake, we know what's coming. We know what's going to happen. And when they try and pull a fast one over us, I can't control 400 million people in one country. You can't. Nobody can. And when half of them are dumb and they don't care about anything, and then you got 200 million people who are pissed off, good luck.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a pivotal point in our country's history where we either do what our forefathers did and say enough is enough, because in 1776 they went to war for a lot less than what we're going through right now. They didn't have kids tied up in basements and raping them all the time.
They went to war over just a little too much taxing.
Yeah.
That's all it was. Or not even that, just being taxed without being able to say, "Hey, let's not."
Let
that's
us
what they
vote
went to war.
in these elections and you can tax us. And
Yeah.
they were like, nah. And that was it. That was the last straw for them. And now we have people who will bend over to whatever the government tells them to do. And it's getting to the point, man. I mean, you got to be praying every day, because I do not want to be held accountable for something that I didn't put enough effort into doing any research on.
Yeah.
And it's going to get interesting, man. I mean, I'm excited because I like politics. It's fun for me. But then the human being inside of me is thinking, oh my
The
God,
cultural aspects, like, oh, geez.
this is going to get bad.
This country about to go down a freaking drain.
Because think about it. It doesn't matter if Trump wins. If Trump wins, can you imagine what the left is going to do? I mean, what did they do the first time that he won, when they burned his motorcade?
Yeah, unless he legit drains the swamp this time around and just basically walks in and every person is just, "You're fired. You're fired. You're fired. Hey, listen. Hey, dog-faced pony soldier, okay? You're fired, all right?"
Can't do that with a Mike Pence.
No.
You have to do it with a guy like Kanye or a guy like Nick Fuentes, who has the same size balls you do. Because if you get a guy like Mike Pence who is just kind of indifferent, I don't necessarily dislike Mike Pence. I don't like him. He's just kind of indifferent. But then, therefore, since he's indifferent, I don't like him, because God said, if you are lukewarm, I will spew you from my mouth.
Yeah.
And he's lukewarm. He's the lukewarmest person you've ever seen. Trump might not say the smartest things all the time, but he says what he believes. I can respect that. And like what you said he was going to drain the swamp. He didn't do it. And in his defense,
He didn't have a
he was
good,
on
he
trial.
Didn't have a good team, too.
He didn't have anybody that was on his
No.
team. All of the elected Republicans were crap. And now we've actually got some MAGA people in office. We got some CCGs in office. And that's what we need. We need more people that... We don't need Tulsi Gabbard switching to the Republican Party. That's what we don't need.
No.
Because then all that is another sheep in wolf's clothing, because they're like, oh, well, we converted a Democrat.
Yeah.
Did you? Or is she like Ben Shapiro? I mean, is she like Asa? I don't really care about the letter next to your name. I care about what your actions are.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as I'm concerned, there are 2 elected officials that are Republicans in the past 10 years that have done anything for this country. And one of them was Trump, and the other one was Ron DeSantis. Those are the only 2 Republicans that have done anything. And all the other Republicans have just gone along to get along. They may as well not even have, they only want the money. That's most of the time when people get in office, it's a deceitful person who's just really good at talking to people. And then before you know it, they're making $23 million a year with their husband, and what's the word? Stock trading that's illegal. Insider trading.
Insider trading, yes.
There's too much of that. It's not a coincidence that the richest people in this country are the same people who represent this country. You know, we're just stupid, poor people who don't know anything. How dare we accuse the richest of the rich of illegally gaining things? We don't know anything. We're just stupid, poor people.
Yep. And on that note, we have reached our ending time.
Bum, bum, bum.
We're literally like 5 seconds away from hitting the hour and 30-minute mark.
Hey,
These go by
just hit
quickly
it.
once we get into the roll of it.
We just hit it 5 seconds ago.
We just hit it, yeah. So, thank you guys for joining. I gotta wrap this up real quickly because I gotta go out of town and hang out with some families for a little bit more for the Thanksgiving holiday. And I hope you guys are gonna enjoy your time with your family over this Christmas holiday.
Unless you're homeless and you live in a box.
Yes, and in that case, make friends with your neighbors. But yeah, we hope you enjoyed this episode of Alt.tistic. I've been your host Garrett, co-host Davey, producer Zach.
You didn't use my pronouns. You're canceled.
All right, Mix Davey,
Mixed race, Davey.
mixed race, mixed race, Mixter Davey. I don't know. I identify as a toaster, so you're gonna have to refer to me as toast and toaster. I don't know.
Toaster.
I don't know how this works. I guess you just make crap up as you go along. Anyway,
Pretty much.
we talked about a lot of stuff today. We didn't really actually delve in deep into freaking shooting. We kind of just used that as a jumping off point to
Shooting.
talk about other stuff. Exactly.
Oh,
We
yeah,
talked
yeah,
about
I
the
remember.
Kanye stuff. We always talk a lot about Kanye because he's got a lot to say, and I enjoy that. Stay retarded, everybody. I'm also barely hanging on to being awake. Yeah. So
Stay thirsty, my friends.
Stay retarded. Find God. Love you all. We'll see you next week. Good night.